So Dallas is officially a week away. A little bit less. It is currently Sunday, and we leave for Dallas on Friday morning. It's going to be me and my best friend CJ, who I actually competed in the Poison Nectar Monthly yesterday with. And we are going to be going over the deck that I'm bringing, and then hopefully whenever I get back, I will go over how the games actually went. But I wanted to make this beforehand so that way I can give you all my ideas going into Dallas. I can tell you the weaknesses of it, and I'm able to showcase what my end goals are. So let's go ahead and start out with the Elestrals, because I will be playing Tornadjinn and Dracoray, but I have done so many games with this deck. I have done so many games. It is kind of insane, but let's just go ahead and hop right into it. So we're starting out with 3 Windjinn, 2 Tornadjinn, 3 Nebuleo, 3 Cockaray, 2 Dracoray, 2 Lumaru, 2 Cafmel, and 2 Astrabbit. So I know that having 4 Ascensions is rough. However, the good thing is there aren't really many downsides to having that many, and I don't have to run Rise from the Ashes. The big thing I'm noticing is that a lot of these decks are running Rise from the Ashes, and it is extremely expensive. So the only way that you can really get a viable payoff for it is if you go Rise from the Ashes, get Cafmel out, and then ascend into Dracoray, because then you heal 6 instead of healing the 3. My issue with that is that also then relies on running Rise from the Ashes, and as you will see, this deck list is already extremely tight. This is 19 Elestrals. I want to run 20. I physically can't. is the honest to God truth. I wish I could run 20, but I can't. So Windjinn, really good. You foretell 3. If you call a card that you foretelled, you hard ascend into Tornadjinn. Nebuleo allows you to foretell 4. So the main thing that you want to open up with is either Windjinn and Nebuleo or Windjinn and Apollo. Then you're able to get your Tornadjinn out on either turn 1 or turn 2. Or open up with Tornadjinn or a Windjinn plus a First Light. You First Light, put something on top, foretell it, call it, get it into hand, go from there. So you do have a bunch of ways to get out your Tornadjinn turn 1 or turn 2. On top of that, you also have Lumaru, which is a pretty big attacker, forcing your opponents to mill. You have Cockaray, being a 4 attacker is really nice, and on top of that, putting First Light into the mix is really good. But the Elestrals are pretty simple, right? These 3 combo together, these 2 combo together, your big body, your defensive piece, your healing piece. Where this deck is critical is in the runes. If you do not take into account the runes for this deck, you're not going to like this deck. But this deck has so many tools at its disposal. Disposal is the word I was looking for. But Windjinn, very powerful, and in case you haven't noticed, I have this deck almost entirely blinged out. That's how confident I am in this deck. A lot of these I actually pulled myself, but I'm very happy. I'm very happy with this deck. But Windjinn and Tornadjinn, very good. The 3 Nebuleo are perfect to be able to foretell 4, and it also lets you find your First Lights, which you'll see I'm not running 3 First Lights, which makes it a little bit easier to find. On top of also having your Dracoray for heal and your Cafmel for heal, along with your Rabbit, meaning that you shouldn't have to use your Ambrosias on your Solar Spirits too much. You can use it on all your other very critical rune pieces. So we're going to start out with 3 Ambrosia. We've got 3 Shield. We've got 3 Gorgon's Gaze. We've got 2 Tsunami. We've got 2 First Light, 2 Apollo, and the key to this deck that I think everybody is going to take into consideration and is going to come for: 2 Golden Fleece, along with 2 Cryoblast, a Hurricane, and an Earthquake. This rune setup and this rune lineup is kind of cracked. It has a little bit of everything. You have your quintessential 8 back row. You've got your 3 Ambrose, but on top of that, your first lights to help with your Tornadjinn. I also pulled a reverse stellar first light, which is pretty cool. Your first lights are able to get your Drake arrays out, but also able to help out with your Windjinn if you're in a bad spot. Your Apollos to be able to help out your Windjinn, but also to stack a few Solar Spirits on it to buff up your Nebuleo. The big thing is Golden Fleece. This card makes Tornadjinn stupid, to put it as blunt as I possibly can. Your opponent has to have a combination of Spectrus and Eddy on field, or a Shield of Achilles. One of the two. That's about it. And that's assuming that you attack in with your Tornadjinn, because you don't really have to at this deck. You have a bunch of other options, but on top of that, you've also got a bunch of other options, because you can just get your Tornadjinn back. And that's where it's kind of bonkers, because you're running 2 Tornadjinn. If they shield you with 1 and you lose a Golden Fleece, you have another Golden Fleece. You have another Tornadjinn to just go back into. So Golden Fleece is super good. It puts Tornadjinn as an 8/4, meaning Eddy can't out it. That means then they have to have a Spectrus. They have to attack in with their Spectrus first. So if you shield their Spectrus and you're in defense position, then you're still fine. You can Tsunami their Spectrus. They're still fine. If they water enchant their Spectrus, they can't get over you. Nobby can't destroy you, because Solar Elestrals don't have their attack dropped. Doppelgator can't hit over you. You're stronger than Lycavoid, and if you have Golden Fleece, that means they have to have an Eddy plus a Lycavoid, or a Spectrus plus a Lycavoid. So it's very difficult for them to do both. Cryoblast to be able to do the spot removal for things like Nobby, Spectrus, Eddy, the big aspects of Lunar Aggro, Elechick as well. Hurricane to be able to get rid of any back row. You'll see in the spirits that I have just enough to do what I need to do. But Hurricane, critical. Usually whenever you're using your Tornadjinn effect, you're searching for Golden Fleece, Hurricane, and whatever back row you don't already have. You could even go Golden Fleece, EQ, and then whatever back row you don't have. Or if you already have like 2 different back row, you could go Golden Fleece, Hurricane, Ambro to be able to get back a spirit or 2. Ultimately, very, 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 very strong rune lineup. Running 2 First Light is much less than ideal. However, there is nothing I can cut from this. Could I cut a Golden Fleece? Yes. However, forcing your opponent to out a Golden Fleece Tornadjinn twice feels impossible. It feels unbelievably difficult, and it forces them to waste essentially 6 spirits if they want to use 2 Shield of Achilles on it, and that's not counting your Drake array. So it is very, very difficult for them to out. Because of that, I don't want to play less than 1. It also makes it a little bit easier to draw into. So if I open up with like Windjinn, Apollo, Golden Fleece, or Windjinn, Nebuleo, Golden Fleece, I end up having a Nebuleo that is extremely, extremely bulky, because it's got the 3 attack from the one that's on it, and then the 5 attack from these 2, along with 3 defense. And that's not also counting if I end up siding in Temple of the Moon, or Temple of the Sun, I'm sorry. Very, very, very strong rune lineup. I really like it. I think that the runes are where this deck really shines. And if you're able to get Tornadjinn out and you're able to essentially just cherry pick whatever you need for the situation, it becomes even stronger. But let's go ahead and take a look at the Spirit lineup. Now, the Spirit lineup is a little tough. I'll tell you that now. We're only running 9 Luminape. I wish we could run 10. 10 feels about right. But we need the 2 Vipyro for the Drake Array is the big one. We need the 2 Lycaris for your 2 Tornadjinn for your Windjinn if they end up Gorgon's Gazing your Windjinn. You want to have a way to reactivate it so you can't run only one. I could cut a Vipyro for another Luminape, but then that would mean I have to find an Ambrosia before I can Drake Array again. Your 2 Leviathan for your Tsunami and Hurricane. You have your 2 Terratlas for your Earthquake. You have your 2 Zaptor for your Hurricane as well as your Astrabbit, and then your single Flurmine for your 2 Cryoblasts. So when I say this deck list is extremely tight, it's not an exaggeration. There's very little that I think you can actually do. You're running 7 spirit types, which is definitely tight. It's definitely tight, but it's very, very consistent. This is the only thing that makes me a little nervous. Whenever I'm running a very heavy deck like this, I strongly prefer to have at least 11. But that would require me to cut 2 things from this. And I physically can't. Like, I could cut the Flurmine and the Cryoblast, put them inside, but when I was playing the Poison Nectar monthly, every single time, on every single game, I sided in Cryoblast. If I'm just going to side in Cryoblast every single time, why wouldn't I just play it in main and figure out a way to squeeze it in somehow? So that was kind of my mindset there, but you need this to be able to use Tsunami and Hurricane. You need this to be able to use Hurricane and potentially an Astrabbit. You need this to be able to use your Windjinn plus Hurricane. Your Drake Array, I could take out one of these for another Luminape. I could, but then it would just require an Ambro to be able to get it back in order to get the heal effect off of Drake Array. And then your Terratlas is obviously for your Earthquake. If you don't run this, you essentially have no way of playing your Earthquake, but that is everything for the main deck. I'm now going to show you guys the side deck, because the side deck I think is actually kind of cracked. I kind of cooked a little bit, especially considering the way some of the matchups work in this. I kind of cooked. So first up, we have your 2 Galaxy. Galaxy is just a really good attacker. We've got the 2 Boombat for your things like Ferrogeist, for Posthumous, for Blizzstrix, things like that. We have 2 Peegleam, because that card is phenomenal. I don't care what anybody says, it is such a good card. We've got the 2 Spoiled Fruit, the 2 Temple of the Sun. We have a single First Light, a single Resting, and then your Luminape, Zaptor, and Leviathan. Leviathan for Galaxy, Zaptor for Boombat, Luminape for your other 3 Solars, or if Cryoblast just doesn't do anything, I can take out Cryoblast, put in the 10th Luminape, and then I'm a little bit more comfortable. But Spoiled Fruit, in case I'm going up against a heal stall matchup. That was probably my biggest mistake this past week, was playing against a heal deck and not siding in Spoiled Fruit. But Temple of the Sun is also crazy, because if you have Temple of the Sun up, and then you play your Tornadjinn plus your Golden Fleece, while you are going extremely low on your Solar Spirits, you also now have a 9/5 defender and there is no way for them to out it with anything aside from a Lycovoid or an Elestral plus a Zeus. Well, technically 2 Elestrals plus a Zeus. Very, 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 very strong. There are a few things I wanted to fit in here. I wanted to fit in Chains of Prometheus with some fire spirits. The main issue with Chains is that only allows me to go more aggro. Whereas I think if I go more responsive, once I'm telling them, this is what I have on board, try to out it. And then I just stop all their ways to out it. And then I'm able to get like a Tornadjinn plus a Drake Array, and then I can just attack in with the Drake Array. I think that works out pretty good. So I think it's very, 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 very strong. The main time I'm going to side in P-Gleam is whenever I'm going up against decks that get out a lot of big bodies that are very difficult for me to deal with. So I'm going to side in essentially these 4 for that. So like if I'm going up against Lunar Nexus, that gets out a lot of big bodies, like Posthumous, Pharogeist, Doppelgator, things like that, I'm going to get out these guys. If I'm going into a water deck, like Water Reanimator, I'm going to go into Galaxy, because a lot of Water Reanimator does struggle against Galaxy. For example, the Joblin lineup, it has a 6 defense under Atlantis. I have a 6 attack, so I'm able to try to play around it that way, force it into defense position, and then I can hit over it with pretty much anything. I'm also going to put this in against decks that I know are running stadiums. I have a 3rd First Light in case I'm missing it, but I'm not overly worried about it. But yeah, that's the side deck. That's the deck I'm going to be running in Dallas. Overall, I'm very nervous, but I'm also very excited because I've put a lot of work into this deck. I've put countless hours with a lot of people trying to make this deck work, but ultimately I do think that this deck has insane potential to be able to just go to town. I could cut the rabbit for like another Lumaru, to be able to have 3 Lumaru, or to be able to cut it for another Solar Elestral like Cyprimal or something along those lines, to be able to start getting Golden Fleeces active, or to be able to put in the 3rd First Light. But the main issue with cutting Rabbit is Lunar decks struggle hardcore to get over Ast Rabbit. So that's kind of where my issue lies. If I just need to buy time, I can put out an Ast Rabbit and say, okay, find an Eddy. That's like about your only thing, and hopefully I don't have a Tsunami to just put it back into defense. But that's the main reason why I'm considering cutting Rabbit. But yeah, overall, very, very happy with this deck. I really enjoy it. But I will go ahead and now cut to Future Kelly, so that way you guys can see how the tournament actually went. Okay, I am back from Dallas, and I wanted to go over how all of my games went and how everything kind of played out, because realistically, I'm very, very happy with how the tournament went. I'm happy with how I performed. I'm happy with everything. I also kind of want to give my just overall review of how Dallas was ran and what I think could have been done better or what was phenomenal, things like that. Before I get into anything like that, I do want to say I did make a handful of changes the day before the tournament started. So Friday, whenever I got there, the biggest change that I made was I actually took out a First Light from main deck, and I put it in my side deck, or it might have already been in my side deck, either way. And I actually put in Double Eruption, because while just walking around, I noticed that a lot of people were going to be playing Blitzstrix, and my side deck is kind of intended to just be Blitzstrix hate, right? I've got now double Eruption, double Boombat, double P-Gleam, Resting, and then some Spirits. So I could, in theory, side in like 8 cards in order to have a better Blitzstrix matchup, which ultimately I think is a smart thing to do. So I did end up putting in double Eruption. I think it was the right play. But the deck itself was really, really good. So let's go through each round. Round 1, I played against a gentleman who was super nice, unbelievably nice guy. He was playing heal, stall, however you want to word it. I ended up winning 2-0. Great. I didn't know how this deck would match up into heal, but it actually matched up very, very well. He was seeing heal guys left and right, didn't really care, was kind of just you know, you do what you got to do sort of thing. And then I would get out my Tornadjinn, I would search for the right card, and then I would go from there. Luckily, I would keep getting into my Cryoblast, so I would just Cryoblast the Sluggle, I would Ambrosia it back, and I wouldn't have to swing in, risking shield. He would have to shield using spirits that were on board, or that he just healed. So, made it very, very good. Really, really good matchup into heal. So then round 2, I played Blitzstrix, which was phenomenal. Round 1, he didn't really hit a whole lot of his mills. Super nice kid. Very, very, very nice kid. I ended up playing him, or I ended up talking to him a handful of times, like in line, waiting for things to purchase, things like that. Very, very nice kid. He ended up missing a lot of his mills in the first game, and the mills that he would have hit, I had Gorgons ready, or I had something ready to deal with it. So he didn't really have a chance to get his footing going, and then in the second game, he just didn't hit anything, and I got out 2 Tornadjinn and a Drake Array by turn like 3. Couldn't really do much of anything. Or no, I'm sorry, that was round 3. Round 2, I played against Bugbox. And I played against somebody who was very, very sweet, very, very kind. She was a phenomenal lady. She didn't really play a whole lot, but she was very, very versed in Digimon. So she knew a lot about card games, knew a lot about like the aspects of playing a TCG. So the smaller details of Elestrals, she wasn't super aware of, but she was still unbelievably knowledgeable for only playing for a little bit of time and going to Dallas. And she, I believe after our round, I believe she still won 2 more rounds before she ended up dropping. So she was phenomenal. She was phenomenal. Loved talking to her. So I won that one, round 2, won round 3, round 2, and then round 4, I ended up going up against somebody that had the hard counter to this deck. The hard counter to this deck is anything that can change positions easily. So Water Reanimator is really good, but also so is Wind. Things like Galaxair, things like Sorlet, things that just force me to change positions of my Elestrals more so than I want. So like Sorlet, for example, even Tornadjinn with a Golden Fleece on it in defense mode just gets popped, and that's super, super annoying. Galaxair, then it hits over it. Like, it's super, super annoying. So he had just a really, really good matchup. Both of the games, because I ended up losing 2-0, but both of the games I brought him down to like 3 spirits. So I got it really, 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 really close, and I fought my heart out for it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, there just wasn't too much I could do. So I ended up losing that. So I'm 3-1 going into round 4. After finishing round 4, I mean. I expected to go 0-3 drop and then just grind out side events to try to win these beautiful spirit bundles, right? That was my plan. That was my plan, to just get as many of these spirit bundles as I could. But now going 3-1, I'm like, wow, maybe I have a chance. So then I go into round 5 and I'm playing Blitzstrix again. Game 1, okay? He got out 2 Cedarsaur, a Morlith, and a Blitzstrix by turn 3. Nothing I could do. Blitzstrix giveth and Blitzstrix taketh away, you know? So I lost game 1. Game 2, I got out 2 Tornadjinn and a Draco Ray by turn 4, and I prevented all of his ascensions and mills and things of that nature. So it was super quick game 1, super quick game 2. We were moving into game 3 with still like 30 minutes left in the set, and we took it so far. And because that was probably the most unlucky part of the tournament, I want to show you exactly what was going on in the end game of that round. Okay, so to set this up properly, let's go over the way the board state was. This is all I had in Spirit deck. I had a Luminape, I had a Vipyro, and I had a single Zaptor. This is all I had on Spirits. He was down to 8 Spirits. In hand, I had Eruption, okay? Specifically, double Eruption. In my deck, I only had 1 more Ambrosia. I had both of my Boombats, both of my Peegleam, and a First Light. I had other cards, but like these are the important ones that I wanted to go over. My opponent had 1 Blizztrix and a single Shield of Achilles. I knew he had Shield of Achilles because the turn previously, I had used 1 Tornadjinn effect, and he did not Gorgons it, and he saw me grab my other Eruption. Now, on the turn previously, he did not have a Blizztrix. I just Gorgonsed it whenever he got his Blizztrix out. So, I grabbed mine, he got out Blizztrix, I Gorgonsed it, and then it comes back over to me. I know he has a shield, a Blizztrix, and 8 Spirits. I have double Eruption, able to burn for 6. I need to get rid of the Blizztrix in order to win the game. That is all that matters. So, in my mind, I have a bunch of different outs to this. So, I use Tornadjinn effect to expend the Luminape. Now, the way that I saw it, right? I can get Peegleam. I also had an Ambrosia in hand. Or how did I have it? No, I had 2 Luminape. That's what it was. I had 2 Luminape. Okay? So I could get Peegleam, drop it to 0, attack in with 1, he shields it, I attack in with the other, I double Eruption, anything. I had plenty of outs if I get the Peegleam. I get Boombat. I Boombat, I disenchant, I pop, I swing in for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I also have double Eruption. I'm good. Would have been fine. He could have also used shield. And then I also pick Ambrosia, just in case. So that way, if I don't hit it, right, I get Ambrosia. It makes my double Eruption play a little bit easier to do. So I roll it, get Ambrosia. Sucks because the Blizztrix is still now on board. So now I expend my second Luminape, right? Okay, roll. Boom. I go for Boombat, Peegleam, First Light. Thinking, okay, well now, if we go into this next turn, what I can do is I can First Light, put Peegleam on top of the deck, drop it to 0, and then hopefully get over the next turn. Well, I roll, boom, First Light, and I don't have a way to out it. Now, Blizztrix is still on the field. He still has a Shield of Achilles, and I believe I also did the same interaction the turn previously, but I did it with Gorgons instead of Ambrosia and First Light. So any of these that I would have been able to have in hand already would have made the game so much easier, and I would have won the game. Even my opponent made it very clear that if I had gotten any of those 3 Tornadjinn rolls, I would have been able to win the game. But, you know, sometimes it just doesn't work out like that, which sucks because I feel as though I played my round 5 like out of my mind. I truly feel like I have never played a game of Elestrals better in my entire life, but being 2 out of the 3 either time and missing both was just bad luck. Like, there's nothing I can do in that situation except for just say, oh well, Blizztrix giveth and Blizztrix taketh away. So that was my round 5. Then in round 6, I'm going up against actually a buddy of mine who is playing a similar solar list, and ultimately I just didn't find the cards I needed. I bricked. I believe I lost 2-0. So I went from 3-0 to now 3-3. I need to win my last 2 to have a chance at top 32. I go into round 7 and I'm going up against a guy named Yoda, who was honestly just a super great guy. And he was playing like a Solar Nexus Fire Burn box almost. It was a very unique deck that had a lot of burn elements to it, that had a lot of ways to just burn for 1 and then pop a card on the field. So it was like Armadon, it was Nekruff, it was Kinleo, it was just a very, very, very interesting, unique deck. And it was actually difficult to play around because I had no idea what was coming, which might have been part of his strategy going into Dallas, but it was very, very difficult to play against. So that was my round 7, and I won 2-1. So I'm now 4-3. If I win the next game, I have top 32. I have no chance at getting top 16, but top 32 still gets an extra spirit bundle, so I'm fighting for it. I ended up going into round 8 and some things happened, and I'm honestly not going to talk about it in video because at this point it doesn't really mean much or matter to anything, but I wasn't really feeling like playing the game. So my opponent just got the win, and I ended up finishing the tournament 4-4. Ultimately, in my opinion, I should have ended it 5-3 had those dice rolls gotten a little bit better, or had I played a little bit smarter against my round 6 opponent. I believe I still did have a chance, not taking anything away from them. They definitely deserve to win with the games that I played, but I think I played suboptimally. So that was where I think I could have gone 6-2 if I had played those games a little bit better. But ultimately, I'm very, very happy with this deck. I was talking to Distant Coder before, and he asked what I was playing, and I said I'm playing Tornadjinn Drake Array, but I'm playing it with Golden Fleece, and he said, oh, that card's bad. This card won me every single set that I won, and in the ones that I lost, it won me every single game that brought me back into the game. This card on Tornadjinn is stupid. Okay, I want you guys to just take a second to think about how much this helps Tornadjinn. It prevents Eddie. It prevents everything. It prevents Cryoblast. It prevents so much from being able to just walk over Tornadjinn and you're golden. So, and there were so many times that I would have Tornadjinn with Golden Fleece out. Somebody would play Eddie. They would say, switch your Tornadjinn. I'd say, okay. I would swap it, and they would hit in expecting to beat over it. And I'm like, Golden Fleece makes it a 4. It's just a neutral hit. And they'd be like, oh, well, snap. And then they would immediately have to start planning against it in a different way, or they would have to devote a bunch of resources to it. So I remember there was one time, okay, somebody had to literally double Zeus to be able to get over my Tornadjinn with both of their Elestrals, just because they had no way to switch position. 8 attack was too big, and they had to be able to beat over it twice, and they only had a Spectress and something else. So they had to double Zeus it, which made it super, super difficult for them to come back in the game after that, because all I had to do was play another Windjin and I would have another Tornadjinn out. So Golden Fleece was the winning card of this entire deck. I absolutely love it, and I think that if I could have changed anything about this deck, I think what I would have done is I actually would have played Argo. I'm not an Argo believer. I know the finals were double Argo, and I know that Argo was insane. I'm not a huge Argo believer because it is so expensive all the time. It is 2 spirits to cast, usually 2 spirits for the artifact rune, and unless you're nabbing a surprise KO on something, I don't ever think it's worth it. But I think being able to have essentially 4 copies of Golden Fleece that you can find to just battle trick, keep your guy alive, I think would have been super, super useful, especially whenever you consider some of the cards that want to hit into Golden Fleece. I think it would have been really, really useful. So should I have played Argo? Yes. Do I think it would have won me the game? 100%. Because I think there were a handful of games where I was trying to get a golden fleece to protect my Tornadjinn for a single turn, and I couldn't grab it off of the dice roll, and I lost the game because of it. So I would put Argo in this. Don't know how I would fit it because the deck list is already so tight, but I would definitely try to fit Argo in this. If I could, something that I was considering was actually taking out the entire Cockaray Drakeray package. What that would do is that would give me more abilities to run other good Elestrals, like Eddie, like Sorlet, like Galaxair, things like that, to be able to have more of a wind-based package while still being able to run the Nebuleo to foretell, to also hit the Windjins. And then I could also take out the Apollos and then just go from there and have more wind good guys along with Argo, potentially be able to put in some PTA. And I think that would have been better. Ultimately, I'm proud of this deck. I'm very proud of this deck. This deck was, I'm going to say, 2 really good dice rolls. And when I say really good, I mean 33% chance. Well, 33% chance to not hit. So I was 66% chance to go 6-2. And that is something that, like, I think I did my best, and I think I played really well. But this deck list was so much fun to play. It was very explosive, very combo heavy, and ultimately I think it was phenomenal. And Solar ended up winning the whole tournament, so Solar definitely has some merit, but I think Tornadjinn has some merit beyond that. So the last little bit of this video I wanted to talk about, what I think the tournament did well, what I think it could have done better, and realistically, just my overall thoughts on the people that I met. So what could the tournament have done better? I want to start with the negatives, because honestly, I only have a single negative of the entire tournament. I mean, yeah, really only one negative. I wish that the top 3 prizing, the Astrabbits, I wish you got a play set of them, because I would love for Q to be able to run a play set of 3 of his first place Astrabbits. That would be amazing. I know where the downside is he could sell like 2 of them and only keep 1, and then they're out to a bunch of people and then they become a super high priced thing. But I feel like these are cards that people wouldn't sell. I really don't. And I wish that they were play sets. I think that would have been really cool. That's about the only downside I have. The things that they did very well. The communication was insanely good. The way that it was ran was phenomenal. I spoke to Dan about this because, for those of you that don't know, I've actually known Dan for probably close to 10 years now. We did Draft League together back in 2016, so 9 years. And when I tell you that this man has always been the most devoted and headstrong person I've ever met, it's the honest to God truth. And he ran a phenomenal event. He made sure that it ran smoothly. He made sure that everything was perfect. The slight hiccups that happened, like the Shop Elestrals booth, the card machine went down. You can't control that. And he still made it super smooth and super fun to be around. So I think the tournament was ran very well. I think Skyhawk did a great job with the judges. I think he handled all of the way the timings were announced, things like that, very well. And then the final thing that I think was done very well, Dan builds so much hype on things. That opening ceremony, being able to open up a pack of Firestorm during the opening ceremony was amazing. That was such a good touch. He did phenomenal. So the tournament was ran really well. It was actually very spacious. I was kind of surprised. I was expecting it to not be enough room, but it really was. It had plenty of room for everything. Oh my God, my face cam froze. There we go. Don't know why it froze. But yeah, it had plenty of room for everything. Very well orchestrated. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on were the people that I met. So I went down with my best friend CJ, and for those of you that didn't get a chance to meet CJ is the most caring human being on the planet. So being able to just spend that time with him was phenomenal. But I met a bunch of amazing people. I got to meet In Vivid Color for the first time. If you guys don't know him, I've actually used one of his no copyright backgrounds in almost every single one of my videos. Phenomenal dude. I got to meet Magnitude for the first time, which was amazing. I got to meet Dan in person for the first time. I got to meet so many people that I've known for years for the first time. But then I also got to meet a bunch of people that it really meant a lot to me to meet them. So I got to meet Super Insane. Super Insane and I have worked not super closely, but we've worked together on some certain things within the past few months. And the dude is genuinely a super nice guy, and it was so nice to meet him. So if you are watching this, this meeting you was phenomenal. So thank you for being just a genuinely great guy. I also got to meet the person who got me started in Elestrals in Bean Soldier. I actually came across one of his videos and I was like, wow, I really like this guy's energy. Let me check out Elestrals, and here I am today. So I got to meet him, and Josh was one of the most down-to-earth people I've ever met, and meeting him was phenomenal. Distant Coder was super, super funny. Swolax was super, super chill and nice. Got to talk to him a bunch whenever it came down to like right after rounds. I got to see K-Cray again. I haven't seen her since Worlds 2019, so it's been 6 years almost. There was just a bunch of people. I got to meet one of my buddies, Perky, and another thing that we work on. And then of course I got to meet Julian, and Julian is Julian. He is so funny. He ended up making top 16, and I'm so proud. He actually ended up making top 8. And I'm so proud of Julian. I love Julian. He's so great. But then of course, Yoda, I believe was his name, was my round 7. He was great. There were just so many people that I loved getting the chance to meet. So the event was amazing. The people were amazing. I'm proud of how I performed. Even though it was a 4-4, I feel like I was this close. I feel like I was this close to 6-2. And because I was so close, I couldn't be prouder, because I expected to go 0-3 drop. But yeah, that's going to be my overall take on everything that happened at Dallas. I'm so blessed to be a part of the community, and I just want to say thank you guys for being very welcoming at Dallas and everything that you guys did to the whole Elestrals team. Thank you guys so much. But until the next tournament, let me go ahead and start getting some of these videos made on deck profiles that I was considering taking to Dallas. But I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and thank you to everybody at Elestrals for putting on such a great event. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.